A very volatile week in the markets and what's ahead before the USDA report. Jerry Gidel is ready to bring you all the numbers right here on Connected Farmer. It's your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. Jerry, last week we were talking about the war between Israel and Iran. Israel, of course, supported by the United States. And it seems a lot of things happened in between. We had Iran being bombarded by the United States over the weekend. And then we have had a very volatile week in the markets. And we were ending the week with new talks about trade that, of course, we somehow got lost in the last month, but we are now talking about trade again with progress with China, some progress with India, and some pause in negotiations with Canada.
Yes, you covered a lot of ground there in the volatility, to say the least. It's kind of surprising that we had the U.S. participation there in their new, uh, I guess, uh, dome busting bombs that right now we still haven't figured out how much of the damage is to their underground nuclear sites really occurred or not. One says it's completely gone. The other guy's saying, no, it's not so bad and that kind of stuff. But in general, it did end up prompting some negotiations between Iran and Iraq to start sometime, hopefully this coming week. And that's to some extent a positive on the world uh, peace situation it is right now from that standpoint. But I think the other big feature this week was the amount of rains that was in the western parts of the U.S. Corn Belt, and that some pretty hefty rains. Rain makes grain mentality was definitely part of along with the calming down of the East situation there was a combination of how we got pretty weak performance for most of the week here. We had some solid exports. They weren't as big as some of the recent ones, but we don't need that. We actually, surprisingly, on our export sales on Thursday this week, we've already covered the 50 million increase in the USDA's number this month in their exports up to 2.5 or 2.65. We've already got that sold. So, yeah, interesting world out there. A lot of uncertainty and things, nervousness going on, and that. But then today we had pretty good short-covering rally for most of the session. Beans took a little late break on things, but I think everybody was starting to realize that maybe things had got overdone here on this pullback, and that lots of still the size of the U.S. crop, which we'll get into. Also, even how much rain helped the crop and how much it hurt it. When you get 6 to 8 inches of rain in a short bit of time, and it was really the southwestern quadrant of Iowa that really got pummeled here. Even got some of the areas in my home county out there, but it wasn't as heavy as that. It was probably a half of that kind of total is what we had, which is a heck of a lot better to get than when you get 6, 7, 8 inches in a short bit of time over 2 or 3 days. That doesn't stay in the ground, and it might even cause things to get washed out.
Now, I have seen several reports of tar spots around the US. I'm counting at least 5 states with uh, cases reported, including Iowa. Do you think that's going to affect the total yield at the crop?
Oh, it's definitely a factor out there that could impact it, no doubt. And it's really because of what we just talked about, the heavy rains that occurred Iowa, Nebraska, northern Missouri. Uh, and I suspect there's been some problems in South Dakota and Minnesota along the way. And tar spot is a really tough one as to how much direct impact it has on yield, but it's not good when you take away the engine of photosynthesis in the leaves, in that. Uh, and it's really caused by the fact that you have excessive moisture and things like that, and the leaves stay wet, and then things get blown around and all that kind of stuff. So, having that type of report pop up after the kind of rains we had in the Western Corn Belt is not surprising to me.
Now, you are not surprised about these diseases, but do you think the market will be caught by surprise on Monday with the new report with changes in production?
Oh, I think there is going to be some reality here of looking at the price relationships uh, we had, and usually we had some expectations here of a jump in production back in March in corn at 4.7 million bushels, up over 95.3. Actually, the June numbers there from Reuters were another two or three hundred. Uh, excuse me. Now from there, so uh, the reality of it is that traditionally, uh, the kind of price decline we've had since April until now, and now to some extent it didn't have impacts of the last week when we were really down here pounding against $4, but it was still there. There is some stronger basis levels in that, but I think the with the trade average guess basically coming in uh, just about the same as it was back in March. Kind of feel like that there was surely some shifting. I and a few others are out in this 600 thousand acre decline, and about 300 to 400,000 increase in corn, or excuse me, in beans. I'm sorry, as a kind of a normal reaction to it. That probably is going to be the first area that uh, the trade's going to look at here is going to be the corn and soybean acreage shifts that occurred. Beans, relatively speaking, during this last say 8 to 10 weeks, has really kind of been in a trading range towards the high side of its recent activity. So, to some extent, that you would think that that might get it, and to some extent, some weather activities here in mid. Uh, May that kind of slowed things down in certain areas. That tends to make people feel like that they want to maybe shift over to some beans on things as we go forward. But the trade situations, we'll be watching that closely. Wheat, another major crop. I kind of felt that some of the wet weather that was in the northern plains out there, North Dakota Pacific, he could have had an impact. I kind of felt that some of those crops could have been shifted over to oats and barley, and that's another slight tweak on things along the way. The expectations here uh, are for about a 50,000 increase here to 10 million and 80,000 versus 10 million 20. From there on spring wheat, Durham kind of the same here. The expected up about 10,000 acres on that, and I kind of agree with that. It's usually what happens in the wheat world. The specialty crops tend to get there. As I said, I think there will be some increases in oats and barley. They were pretty quiet and pretty low in some of the numbers back in the spring there on the March number that we had from the USDA survey at that time. So, and definitely the planning numbers are going to be the highlighter where people are looking at stocks traditionally at this point. Uh, it, they tend to kind of follow in line with what we've been anticipating strong corn usage for cattle. Actually, yesterday's hog report that came in unchanged to higher on market hogs probably was another subtle sign that we've had a pretty good spring quarter here. The interesting thing is that Fairwings have not been high, but we've just had a tremendous ongoing push of expanded litter sizes. It's been going on for a couple, 3 years here since the last disease issues and that. And so we're saving more pigs, and those pigs are staying around here as market hogs at this point, because I really don't think we've seen a huge expansion on breeding herd on that because of the fact that cattle prices have provided us some upside protection, but the hogs and chicken prices have not really went crazy here at this point. That might change though. We're really in a really close situation here on cattle going on through the latter part of this year and on to next year. There's going to be a lot of less beef around, and so that might support corn and excuse me, pork and chickens. But right now, at least, I'm kind of looking for a little number slightly below 4.6, while the trade's looking for about a 40 or 50 million increase over that on corn stocks. Wheat, the last USDA number was on stocks was 835, and they're looking for an average guess of that. I'm slightly down by 10, or excuse me, 6 or 7 at 830. And soybeans, um, I think once we get below 990 million, that maybe suggests that we've got a little smaller crop for next year, but that's not going to change a lot of attitudes on soybeans. The soybean market has really been got its focus on what's going to happen in South America. Actually, there's some reports here late this week that Argentina has been a very aggressive marketer of some of their soybeans to the Chinese here because the government down there offered out a reduced export tariff from 33 down to 26%. And so I think that that's part of the less demand we've seen from China over the last 6 months to a year is that they have been very reluctant buyers of anything U.S. And I think that'll continue here until we get a little more positive attitude between the two sides.
Yes, and another point, recently we reported that the US would start increasing the blending on fuel, and the same thing was announced in Brazil this week, and that would allow Brazil of zeroing the imports of gasoline.
Yes, and interestingly enough, that also helps reduce down some of their uh, need to export corn into the world because of the fact they have been aggressively expanding their ethanol industry down there for, geez, the last 7 and 8 years, maybe longer. And that's a real positive about, them utilizing their corn as a fuel source instead of a feed source and that. So that could be positive for us on a worldwide basis here. The biggest problem right now is we've because of their smaller crop last year, and maybe because of the expanded ethanol usage down there, we have been a huge seller of exporter of corn to the world, and boy, that's going to be tough to uh, keep that going, particularly since there's reports that the second crop corn in Brazil has been very, very good. They still might be a competitor for us in the international markets. So there's lots of different places that the world is finding corn. The only place that probably is a little shaky right now is China, from the North China Plain and things like that. The weather hasn't been very good. So maybe that's a hope for everybody here that they're going to still be a buyer of corn on this late summer and on into 2026.
Yeah, so next week we'll reconnect and see what happens. We'll also have the upcoming holiday of the Independence Day in the United States.
Exactly, exactly. So it's going to be a shortened week, and we got a USDA report, and the industry will want to know what the July numbers are going to say on the S&Ds and things like that. So it'll be a lots of numbers and lots of excitement going on there at this point. Right now, at least, the we'll have to see if we're going to end up uh, coming in on Saturday morning to talk, or if we get a chance to talk on Thursday night, because we're all going to be partying in U.S. independence on Friday.
All right. We'll
Take
talk to
care,
you.
sir. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Bye.